Hey there YouTube, this is Mr. Budget coming with you with another deck profile. If you guys liked my last video on Alt Mile, you guys are going to love this one. Sorry for the noise in the background, I'm in my office so it's a bit hot in here, so bear with it. So today we're going to be doing Fenrir. So I went to my regionals this past weekend and we got 37th place out of a little over 100. I used Fenrir, funny enough. It did hold itself up against the meta pretty well. It just a few misplays here, not having the right pieces in the deck, and a few choices for the deck that I've altered for this video, coming out of that setting to kind of figure out it wasn't really working for me. If you guys want to know what I actually use in the regionals, you guys can leave me a comment down below. I'll surely answer it for you. But similar to Alt Mile in my previous video, one second. Sorry about that. Like Alt Mile in my last video, Fenrir has been one of my long-standing decks I have used for since I've started playing Vanguard back in G. Fenrir, funny enough, was my second deck. Alt Mile was my first. So I have a very soft spot for this deck. I've always wanted to keep it. Please give us our stand trigger at least back at 1. Please. The deck sorely needs it. But what can I say? But the deck has taken so many different routes and variations and play styles. Fenrir is very multi-flexible deck like that. So I play a variant of Fenrir Control. I'm not using Melissa, even though I have considered it, and I'm not denying it is not a good choice. But I could not fit Melissa in the whole Melissa engine in my deck alongside of everything else that I wanted to play. So I chose on having somewhat of control, somewhat of a beatdown strategy. It did hold up in testing. It just didn't do so well active regionals for obvious reasons, or whatever reasons. The meta is just what it is. But I do consider it a very high tier 2 deck. It can win games. You just got to pilot and know the matchup properly. But enough said. Let's get right into the deck to see what we're playing. So of course we're playing 4 copies of Mythical Beast Fenrir. So for those who don't know, once per turn, 2 once per turns, and a auto effect. Act once per turn. You may Soul Blast any number of cards out of your soul and insert your deck for up to 1 card equal to the grades that you Soul Blasted. Then add that card to your hand. When you do, you must immediately play a card from your hand. Not the one that you searched, just a card must come out. Second skill is when you Soul Blast once per turn, auto effect, whatever card, one of the cards that you Soul Blasted, you may superior call it to a rearguard circle. That's his old G version in the V era, allowing you to get your multi-attacks off for Soul Blasting. And then his last skill is when he attacks, you may Soul Blast 1, he gains plus 10k. So his third skill allows you to activate his second skill. And his first skill also allows you to activate his second skill. So he's multi-purpose usable. Next we go into his evolved form, for those who know the lore. Mythical Destroyer Beast Vanadaganda. That's how you properly say it, people. So this is one of our key cards we need in deck and in the soul. So Vanguard or Rearguard, when he is placed, you may Soul Blast 1. You may retire one of your opponent's rearguards. If he is placed on the Vanguard circle, you may retire all of your opponent's rearguards. Excel players love that caveat card. His other skill is on the Rearguard. When at the end of the battle that he attacks, you may move him to the soul. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Move 1 to the bottom of your deck, 1 to the top, and 1 to the soul. This allows you to always know what the top card of your deck is and allow you to stack your triggers. Next is our grade 2. We play 3 copies of Unappeasable Bitter Gleipnir. Gleipnir is one of our ride targets. Well, at this point, the only ride target. Excuse my phone. Vanguard or Rearguard, when placed, you may counterblast 1, soul charge 1 card, and then take any card from your soul and add it to your hand. So this allows you to toolbox at grade 2. His other skill is on Rearguard. When he attacks, you may Soul Blast 1, and he will gain plus 10k to the end of the turn. For those who remember, this was a part of the Fenrir Gleipnir loop, because you would Soul Blast your Taro and restand. Our next grade 2 is 3 copies of Strongbow of Starry Night Ulysses. This is our draw engine. So at the end of the battle that Ulysses attacks a Vanguard, you may put him to the soul, draw 1 card, and soul charge again. So that's a +2, +1 to the hand. Well, +2 to the soul, net 0 to the hand, because you're replacing the card that you use, which is him. This allows you to draw Draw back your refund your card that you just used for him, but also gain soul and plenish your soul for further turns. Sorry. The next grade 2 we're playing is a cater card, Knight of Extinguished Digorin. So this card allows us to one place, discard one card, soul blast one card. If the card, on place, discard a card, soul blast a card. Choose any card in your drop zone with a single clan and add it to your hand. So this allows you to get things out of your soul back to your hand from your drop zone. So since we're playing Genesis, you may only grab Genesis cards, because that is part of the single clan. You can't grab copies of himself or the Overtrigger or any other orders, because they do not hold the clan name. The last grade 2 we're playing is our hand trap. Revenant White Sorcerer Vertrum. Vertrum has been a godsend for Genesis. I'm telling you, this allows us to mess with our opponent's board on their turn, get rid of their units in conjunction with Vanagander, pop a unit, which gives us a Denial Griffin type play. For those who don't know, Vertrum's skill is when placed on the Guardian Circle, or not placed, when put. So you can also intercept with him, Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 3, choose one of your opponent's rearguard circles where it has a standing unit on it, call the top card of their deck on top of that unit. So that gets rid of one problem card for another. But the idea is that you want to Soul Blast Vanagander, use Fenrir's skill to revive it, use Vanagander's skill when placed to pop a card. So this gets rid of two problematic cards on your opponent's board for the price of a Soul Blast 3. So this is what you want to use Dorgan to get your Vertrums back into your hand when they go into the drop zone, or use Gleipnir to get them back from the soul when you place. These are just ways to get your hand trap back in your hand and back into play. Because if you are not controlling your opponent's board, you are letting them get too much resources and let them roam too free. You want to keep them restricted and chained down. No pun intended. So that's it for the grade 2s and grade 3s. We're going to go into our grade 1 choices. So we played 3 copies of Witch of Whitebrush Arctic. Arctic has a very interesting skill with our starter. So Arctic says when placed on Vanguard or Rearguard, you may look at the top 2 cards of your deck, choose one card to put into your soul, and then one card goes to the top of your deck. So if you ride her first, you can do her skill first, so you already know what top card of your deck is. Use the starter skill to draw that card. Keep that in mind, folks. Her other skill is when your grade 3 Vanguard attacks once per turn, she and that unit both get plus 5k power, and if you have multiple on board, they do stack on the Vanguard. Keep that in mind. That's how you get some good columns and power to the Vanguard. Next, we're playing 4 copies of the Ever Witch of Orange's Valencia. In regionals, I was playing the G era to soul charge more for other skills that I go into the G zone, but I come to realize out of that tournament, I was getting rid of too many cards in my deck and not profiting off of it as I would like. So it is a net 0 for using her skill to get a card, get her out of the soul, and then putting one card back into the soul. But at least you can put triggers back to the bottom of your deck, guaranteeing you longevity and hitting triggers later. So I kind of went that route. I did like the G-Era version of her because it would be a Soul Blast 3 for a net 2 back. So that means I really only lost 1 card, but it didn't last me long. My deck will run out, and if they found some way to pop my Dreaming Dragon before I got to use it, I was playing the long game. And again, this is another deck you really don't want to play the long game with. You want to try to manipulate and kill your opponent as fast as possible. Next card we're playing is 2 copies of G-Era Mythical Beast Skull. The reason why I chose this one over the V-Era version is because I've had Vanagander or the grade 3 Hill Trigger in my hand way too often, and you need Fenrir as your Vanguard to make your plays happen. So I chose less power, less flexibility over just getting the card to my hand. You need Fenrir. The last grade 2 that I played for that is actually a unit is 2 copies of Claimer Harry. He is Genesis's best, in my opinion, counter charger. The only downside is that he's a Generation Break 1. For those who don't know, whenever you Generation Break 1, whenever you Soul Blast, you may put one of those cards you Soul Blast to the bottom of your deck and countercharge 1. The best thing about him, he is a soft once per turn, so if you have multiple copies of him, you can do it multiple times, and if you have 2 or 3 of him, all 3 copies of him can choose just the 1 card you soul blast, which would net you a counter blast, a counter charge 3. So he's very flexible. I can see why they restricted him under a GB1, because it'd be way too free to do all your things and get all your profit back from doing all your skills. I get that, but Genesis needs counter charge. They have a lot of counterblast heavy cards, and without having the ability to immediately refund that and have to wait a turn, sometimes kills us. Finally, I'll play 1 copy of Elementario. You know what it is. It is the go around for guard restricts in other decks. It is a perfect guard for when your opponent has triple drive, natural triple drive, and that's about it. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I was thinking about the Melissa play, but again, I don't have the room to affiliate all the cards needed to do that. But that is another version of Fenrir you could play that does work very well. So I play 1 V starter. I play 2 copies of Fetter of Leather Lading. For our OG Fenrir players, you should know what this card does. For those who don't, Generation Break 1, once per turn, you may move this card into your soul. If you do, the next time you soul blast, you may superior call one of the cards you soul blast, similar to Fenrir's skill. So this allows you to, when you stride, to get multi-attack. And if you're able to do multiple of them, you get multiple effects of that card. So if you do 3 of him, you can use Gleipnir to attack, soul blast 1, superior card. Attack, soul blast 1, superior card. You can get your multi-attack off in Fenrir, but you need to get them into your hand and into soul. For our triggers, we play 1 over trigger for Cater. Again, I plan on changing this out for one of the Cray Elemental over triggers. Cater's over trigger really isn't doing much unless you're playing a bunch of grade 3s, which we don't. We usually have a bunch of grade 2s on board. That's only a net 2. If you hit a stand trigger, they lose their drive, so I really just don't think Cater over trigger is holding its worth in most Cater clans or decks, or however you want to say it. So this is definitely going to be changed over. I play 3 copies of the Draw PG. For obvious reasons, we need cards in our hand. 4 copies of the Stride Crit. This is a Stride deck. 4 copies of the grade 3 Heal Trigger. This will be changed over to the counter charging Heal Trigger once History Collection drops, because they become 10k power crits and 15k shields. This, like I said, this deck needs counter charge. Soul charging we're fine, but this deck needs counter charging, like badly. So any way that we can counter charge, we are going to use. And then our boy, we play 4 copies of Dreaming Dragon. A, because it replenishes our entire drop zone back into our deck. If 10 or more go, you get to draw a card. And B, because we don't have Taro. Bushiroad. We need Taro back. I don't care if that one. I will drop a Dreaming Dragon for 1 Taro. Please. And it doesn't even have to be the first starter. You can restrict it to not being the first starter. I don't care. I need my Taro back. Please. So that is the main deck. We'll go right into the G zone. Tell you my choices, why I picked what I picked, and what is their benefits. So I'm playing 2 copies of Mythical Hellsky Beast Fenrir. He is only here to be flip fodder. We do not go into his skill because we do not play a bunch of Revelation units. He is here to be flip fodder. He's in the deck only because this is a Fenrir deck. If you have to go into him, that means you're lacking on hand, or lacking in some other way, or lacking in sense. He is flip fodder. We're moving on. We play 2 copies of the Stride Mythical Destroyer Beast Bonnegarder. He could be we use him to a possible kill turn, because his skill is when he attacks, you may Soul Blast 6 Persona Flip, meaning turn up a copy of him and face up in the G zone. He gains the red text. After your opponent decides whether they're going to guard or not going to guard, you get to look at the top 4 cards of your deck, rearrange them top to bottom in any order you see fit. So this does stack triggers. So this could be a possible killer in the right scenario. You have to know when is the right scenario. That is the key. Next, I played 2 copies of Complete Beauty Amaruta Afros. Her first skill is Revelation. For those who don't know what Revelation is, it's Genesis keyword. When placed in the proper circle, look at the top card of your deck, choose whether or not it goes to the soul or stays on top of your deck. If you put it into the soul, you must rest a rear guard. The only way you get around resting a rear guard is by not having any. Hint, hint. Her other skill is Act. Once per turn, counterblast 1. Turn a card face up in the G zone. Choose one of your rear guards, give it plus 10k and a crit, and then at the end of the battle that she attacks, you may soul blast. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. For the continuation of her first skill, is after you give a unit plus 10k and a crit, if your soul has 4 or less cards in it, you may draw 2 cards and soul charge 5. Her other skill is auto. At the end of the battle that she attacks, you may soul blast 15 and stand the unit that you gave the power to, and that unit cannot be guarded against by a sentinel. So it gives sentinel restrict to the rear guard it gave the plus 10k power and a crit to. Normally that would be great, but in this deck build we never get that skill off, so we're not really worried about it. We just worry about giving crit pressure to our rear guards. Now the main stride to this deck is 2 copies of Soul Offering Heavily Dragon Judge Magora. So Judge Magora says, whenever your opponent would guard from anywhere outside from their deck, you may Soul Blast 3. Choose one of their guardians and retire it. Then force the top card of their deck to the guardian circle. This will kill your opponent's guardians outside of perfect guards or other cards that become perfect guards, because they give the nullification effect to the vanguard. But you still can Soul Blast 3 to get rid of the actual complete guard and force the top card of decks. I have done this multiple times, and I have decked people out by doing this. So the idea is to fill your soul as fast as possible. When you go into this, hit heavy, hit hard, and waste your opponent's hand to where they can't guard anymore. That is the idea. Next, we play 2 copies of Hero DD of Polar Extremities Marduk. Marduk is here just to become a superior stride, while our opponent is at grade 2. So his ability is when your Vanguard at grade 3 swings, you may Soul Blast 6, Counter Blast 1, and superior stride him from the G zone. He takes over that battle as rest. That is it. Because we are playing the V version of Fenrir, we do not get the ability to use the History Collection stride. Because when we ride into Fenrir, we're going to get a force. So this allows us to superior stride on our opponent's grade 2 turn. Most times than not, that would be enough to kill most of our opponents if they don't have a Hill Guardian themselves. We play 1 copy of Great Angel Doombrace. This is if we're just lacking in other options. Act Soul Blast 3, choose 2 of your units, get them both plus 5k, and if your soul has, and then if the number of cards in your soul is 2 or less, you may soul charge 3. This is was the original stride unit for Fenrir. Fenrir will soul charge you 3 cards during his stride skill. Doombrace will soul blast them out. Fenrir will superior call a unit. Doombrace will give a plus 5k since there's no cards in your soul. Soul charge 3 cards back. This was the bread and butter of the original G deck. I use them here just as another option. If they're damage denying me, if I can't counter charge for whatever reason, and if I ran out of Judgment Goras or whatever the case being, if I need another stride to go into, I go into Doombrace. So those are all the strides. We're going to go into the G Guardians in a minute. Remember, flip fodder. So our G Guardians are which of a combination? Lacure. Lacure is a 30k shield. G Generation Break 1, you may flip over another G Guardian. You may choose any 3 normal units of the same grade in a combination between your soul and drop. Return them to the deck. For every card returned, she gets 5k to her shield. Return all 3, that's 15. We use Ultimate Regalia of Affection Erd. Her effect is that you choose 4 different grades from your drop zone, put them into your soul. If you put 2, she gets 5. If you put 4, she gets 10, additional 10, making her another 15k shield. So both of these are guarding for 30. We play 2 copies of Sky Enforcing Light Dragon and an Avatar. He has 2 skills. When placed, you may put a card from your hand or rear guard into your soul, get plus 10k power. His second skill is you may put a rear guard and a card from your hand into soul. Choose one of your opponent's units and negate 2 crit until the end of turn. So this is a G Guardian on steroids. So the first skill is either or, but the second skill is both. So keep that in mind. So you want to kind of order things in the proper order, or you're not going to be able to get both effects off properly. Last but not least, we are playing the OG Goddess of 7 Colors Iris. Just because she's good just getting different cards in our drop zone back to the soul. So if you need 3 of the same cards, you can get them all back. If you need whatever you need in any combination, she can get 3 of them back into the soul, get plus 5k, become a 20k shield. As I was stating before, this is another Force 2 deck. Force 2 deck, and we use the Pretty Genesis for the quick shield. But we use Force 2 in conjunction with the Vanguard and the Rear Guard so we can deal massive pressure. Numbers is not really an issue for the deck. You can get anywhere between 20 to 30 power. And it's not really about a numbers game, it's about negging your opponent to where those numbers can touch. So it's small pokes, but small pokes in the right places to allow the attacks to go through. That is the basics behind Fenrir. It is about manipulating your opponent's guarding structure and hand structure to where they have to take these small pokes and die. So this deck will also be shown in a fight video later on in the week. So look forward to that. If you guys like what you saw, have any questions, have any recommendations of how you would play Fenrir, please leave that down in the comments down below. But if you guys liked what you saw, please like, subscribe. We are growing we are growing quickly at a slow pace, so every little bit helps. If you have a friend who wants to start playing Premium, have any questions about Premium, I'm also in the Discord. I also have a Discord where I'll be linking down below in the description. Any questions, don't feel free to ask. Or put them down in the comments. I will read every comment, reply to every comment. But I've been rambling on for 22 minutes going on. This has been Fenrir. I hope you guys enjoyed. As Mr. Budget. Sorry about my phone, but this has been Mr. Budget. I'm going to sign out. Someone needs my attention. Alright, guys.